Right. Hello, welcome back. This week you join me on my living room floor. I'm all right, I've not fallen. I am surrounded by my GCSE art portfolio and some A-level stuff as well, actually. My mum's been having a bit of a clear out in the house, and I knew the stuff was up there. I knew it was hidden away in the attic somewhere. There's a lot more. Not GCSE, I don't think there's more GCSE, I think this is it. There's a lot more A-level stuff. My degree stuff is mostly with me, so eventually I'll do this with some A-level stuff, but I'm going to show you some GCSE art. We've been talking about it a little bit lately, and it's absolutely coincidence that my mum's been clearing out the attic while I've been talking about this GCSE art. And I've been going through the portfolio and thinking, I can't remember the details of all of it, but I've been reading some of this stuff and some of it's quite funny. So you'll remember, if you've been watching the last few weeks, I've been talking about Michael English quite a lot. Excuse the mess over there. We'll get to that later. Well, me and you won't. I will later. Anyway, so I've been talking about Michael English and the line drawings. So Michael English, there he is. I've got in here, I've just found the worksheet for him as well. So we used to get, and again I forgot about so much of this, we used to get these worksheets like these with research on for the artists we were looking at the time, and I've still got the one in here for Michael English. So I absolutely love GCSE art. I loved art. I love art. It's not a surprise. It's not breaking news at this point, is it? I love art, always have done. GCSE art was my favourite thing. It was my favourite thing to do, favourite lesson of the week by a significant amount. I liked PE as well, actually. I was really good at PE. I did GCSE PE too. But anyway, art. Loved it. I can't tell you how valuable my GCSE art was for the rest of my art career. I don't know if I got really lucky I had a great art teachers. Well, I had two art teachers in high school. One of them I had for more time than the other, but that doesn't matter. And I've mentioned before, it's Mr. Taylor, Mr. T's Artiness. He's got a YouTube channel, you can go and have a look at him. He was my GCSE art teacher. And we knew him before through family things, and we've stayed in touch, obviously, because we already knew him. But anyway, I always feel like I was really lucky in that I had really good art teachers that really cared. And then I don't know, I can't imagine the syllabus I followed was much different to anyone else's syllabus. But it was valuable. And then went on to do A-level art. And again, the A-level art I did, I do think was slightly different. I think it varies a little bit, A-level art with your teacher. Because sometimes you do A-level art, and before you go to university to do art, they'll ask you to do a foundation year, which is like a year in between sixth form and university, where you'll just go and do an extra year of art, and it'll teach you a bit more about sort of techniques, research skills, etc. The A-level art I did, this isn't a brag, this is all on my tutors. My tutors did a great job and the syllabus was great. So when I went to university, I didn't need to do the foundation year because my tutors, well, basically they'd covered the bases with it. Again, not everyone does an A-level year, and I think a lot of my friends didn't do the foundation year. So yeah, it's not just me, but so people do have obviously good art teachers. But anyway, and I've just been going through these old sketchbooks. There's some funny stuff in there. There's a lot of football tickets. I enjoy watching football, always have. There's like some England Women's Euros 2005 football tickets in here. There's some Blackpool football tickets. I grew up in Blackpool, for those of you that don't know. There's this guy, who I think was from a fabric softener advert. Can't remember. I used to really like copying things. Football tickets. These sketchbooks, as far as I can remember, you just stuck whatever you wanted in them. That's what I did anyway, obviously. But then there's stuff in here about research and how to do research. And in the back, there's research questions. And these, like, I've just kind of joked about it to some university colleagues. And these research questions are the questions that I still ask. It's not like, these don't change. These are still, when you're looking at an artist, This is what you look at. You look at what's the artist's name, oddly enough, and what materials are they using, what tools do they use, what are the processes, what are their rhythms and tones. Can you imagine what the artist is feeling? These are still questions that you ask now. These aren't, it's not like, it sets you up. Anyway, I thought what we'd do, I'd show you a little bit of the stuff. So when you do GCSE art, you do like, I've forgotten about these as well, you do like these big research things, you look at an artist, you find out about them, you do a board, or this bit of paper that's got all this stuff on, and then like Michael English, we've been talking about Michael English because of the Marmite jar. Remember, we've been talking about the Marmite jar, and we couldn't find a copy of the photograph of the Marmite jar anywhere. Anyway, I found it. Marmite jar. I knew it. I've sent this to Mr. T so he can see it as well. But Michael English, what's that? Lovely. And something that's just really made me laugh as I've seen it. So I've done my Michael English research board, and I did this drawing, a wine bottle. I'm going to guess that I really enjoyed doing this part of the label because I've taken my time on that. But remember, I was 15 when I did these. So don't judge me too harshly. But I've written on here that I like Michael English's work, but I wouldn't buy it. Alright. I've also said the same thing about Paul Cézanne. I like his work, but I wouldn't buy it. I don't know. I've got no idea. I don't know if we were asked that question and I answered it, or if that was an unsolicited opinion. But either way, I've probably written it on others as well. If I don't know if I just decided that people wanted to know what art I would buy at the time, so I thought I'd answer them. But there's tons here. There's absolutely tons. There's like parts where we did like, I remember us doing like self-portrait things. Doesn't look anything like me, but it's self-portrait projects. And there's one I remember doing where we had to like morph our face with someone else. There's a picture of me there, and I morphed myself with Janice from the Muppets, and then we made that out of clay. That'll be at my mum's somewhere. Big clay head of me with Janice's head on it as well, which is quite funny. But one of the ones we did that I wanted to talk to you most about, there's tons here. I'm not going to go through it all today because we'll be here for ages, and you might find it boring. But there's one I want to go through, and I think about this painting quite a lot, and I haven't seen it since I did it years and years ago. And I had a vague recollection of what it looked like, but I obviously couldn't remember fully what 16-year-old me's capability was, or 15-year-old, however old I was at the time. But we'd done stuff on, we'd done Michael English, we'd done Cézanne, we did some on Picasso, there's a bit on Gerald Murphy there, all sorts of artists, Ralph Steadman, quite a good one, actually. I'll show you that one, I quite like that one, that Ralph Steadman one. I like that drawing. Good one there. What I will say is there's a mixture of painting and drawings, and I'm going to say that I've always preferred drawing. I can tell as I look through that I'm definitely lean more towards drawing than I do painting. Anyway, we looked at all sorts of artists, and Lichtenstein was one of them. I really like Lichtenstein. And we had to do a project. I think we had to do a project on Blackpool. Mr. T, if you're watching this, correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it was about landscape and Blackpool, to the best of my recollection. And I did a research board on Blackpool. So some of these pictures I took myself, some of them I took off the internet. Some photographs of some fireworks, the big wheel, trains that went along with prom, all sorts, a little bit about Blackpool. And then I went out and I took my own photographs of Blackpool. Must have used my mum's camera for that. Didn't have my own. Did this in the style of Liechtenstein. I decided, I think, that I was doing my final piece in Liechtenstein style of pigeon. There's my gran and my sister are in this one, so that my gran must have taken me to get these pictures. And a few of like views in Blackpool. And then my final piece. I was so proud of this when I did it. And do you know what? I still am. Still pretty good. It holds up. What's this? But you can see it there. And the characters are saying things. I hate shopping in Blackpool. Weather's bleak. Not 100% proud of what I've put in in the homeless person's thought bubble there, but I didn't know any better. I was 15. But whatever. And then I've even drawn my gran and my sister in it as well. And I think about this piece quite a lot. And I did think to myself a little while ago, maybe I should redo it. Maybe I should redo that painting. I don't think the high street definitely doesn't have an Evans on it anymore, I can tell you that. And those shops are definitely different. But I wonder if I could redo that painting. Well, no. I know I could redo that painting. But maybe I should redo this painting just for a bit of fun. And I'm not going to do it right now because I'm quite busy. But it was just a thought. Maybe I should redo some of these paintings and drawings. And not spend too long on them, but just for a bit of fun, and see how they look. Because like, I'm not going to redo this, but I think this is my final thing that I ever did at GCSE. Oh, it's huge. Escher style. It was in the style of Escher. Self-portrait. Anyway, if there's any of these artists that you'd like to know a bit more about, then let me know, because obviously I've only written. I'm not gonna use these bits of paper as the research. So there is some good stuff in here. For example, did you know Cézanne was French? Probably do some bit more in-depth research for this time. But anyway, also here there's some of my very early A-level work. I think it's early. Who can say? It might be a mix. Actually, this might be some of the first stuff I did at A-level. So when you go into your A-level art, it's we're expected to sort of have painting and drawing skills and whatnot. And I had to do a little interview for my A-level art course. I don't know if everyone has to, but we did. And one of the first things we did, I think it was like organic forms or organic materials, something like that it was called. And I remember the first ever lesson, we got an easel. I think it was probably the first time I'd worked on an easel, so that was exciting. The first time I'd ever worked stood up. And I always say on this channel, if you're drawing or painting, you should be stood up or sat up to do your painting or your drawing. And I think from that first lesson, I've never drawn anything flat since. So anyway, one of the first things they said in that lesson was pick out something from that table and draw it, or something like that, or bring in a bit of fruit and draw it. I can't remember. Bring in an organic item and draw it, I think was the instruction. And obviously we all just picked up an apple or a plant or a pear and drew that as it was, and then we all drew it dead quick. And then the art tutor went, right, well, why have you all drawn them as they are? And we were like, well, what do you mean? And she went, why haven't you like taken that apple and like chopped it in half, or smashed it with a hammer, or why haven't you got that leaf and scrunched it, or why haven't you got that flower and, you know, basically done something to alter it, rather than it just being a drawing of an apple. Why haven't we done something different to make it our own and to make it a different drawing of an apple? And that was the first sort of thing we started learning in sixth form and A-level was how to sort of put your own stamp on these things. So GCSE was very much a case of learn about these artists, learn about these styles, learn, you know, do your own work, but within the sort of not the confines, but within these sort of styles and what you've learned. And then A-level was take what you've learned there and start to apply it to your own work and make it your own. Learn how to make stuff your own. So you always research artists. I'm still researching artists. Now I'm researching artists and linking it to my own work and using it to inform my own work as well. And then you start to do that on a different scale at A-level. I've not got any of my A-level sketchbooks, which is a shame because they were good sketchbooks. They'll be at my mum's house, so I'll dig them out and find them and show you them. But we started to do some organic drawings, and I think I quite liked, I don't know, I think I just picked leaves and that. Did this. It's very thick. It's really, really thick. Underneath there, it's in colour, and then I went over it with emulsion and black paint and then did it with like palette knife, quite thick stuff. So you learn how to use a few different materials, and then did it in black and white. And then after that, I definitely fell into black and white from there. and I still work quite black and white, as you know. I started to look at, oh, I really like this paper. I wonder what that is. It's just cheap paper. Butterfly wings. I remember doing these and I really enjoyed doing them. Paper. I think that might actually be the inside of an orange, if I remember rightly. But I started to look at like the structures of plants. Oh no, that is a butterfly wing. As is this. Quite like that. Quite nice. This is my name on the back. This is the inside of an orange, and this is grey. So let's look at the structure of things and details of things. And I think, again, hadn't sort of thought about this until seeing all this stuff, how much my work, I've always I've always sort of had these same thought processes and interests and trends in my work, like this. I like the detail, I like the structure of that, I like drawing it for another one. And it's not a rejection of colour, but it's a use of making things in black and white rather than colour, which I just found interesting. I've got here, we started to do, I can't remember what the next thing was after the organic stuff. It might have been architectural buildings or man-made, or, you know, I think it was like organic man-made, I think is where it sort of went. And then I did buildings. And at first I was just doing these black and white drawings of buildings. And then my tutor said to me, you know, like, why don't you slap some paint on there? Something like that, she said. She was cool. And I started to, so I drew out these things in charcoal, and then I was like putting big dribbly lines of, I was using like the edge of a ruler, sticking it in emulsion and stamping out the edges of buildings and stuff and letting it run. And I think, I should have checked this before I got into it. What was the artist's name? John, I can't remember now. The artist might have been called John Piper. The one I mentioned here, he might have been called John Piper. Okay, John Piper was one of them, but I think there was another one, and I think he was also called John. I've got this drawing here, it's definitely not mine. It's not mine. I can tell because that writing is not mine. And it's just that, the edges are too rounded. I really don't think that's me. I think that was possibly a friend's from sixth form, but it's not mine. And I also did this, which is just the outline of my friend playing his bass from sixth form. I can remember who that is, but I've lost touch with him, sadly. If Dan, if you're watching, I'm pretty sure that's you. So I hope you're well. So why have I shown you all of this? Well, partly just because I wanted to show you it, but also partly because I wanted to sort of show you how art education works. I've been talking to quite a few people about it lately. I've got quite a few friends that have got young children, or children that are sort of nearly going from primary school into high school, and they're expressing interests in art or more creative pathways. And I think quite often now, especially, there's a worry about going into more creative practices. I'd never fully considered, I'd never had it laid out in front of me before. I've literally got GCSE art here, I've got A-level art here, my degree art, I can remember it, so I don't really need it in front of me, but I've got a master's piece up there. And I can see my thought process in front of me, and my learning and my art education in front of me. And at this point, I've got about like 22 years of art in front of me. Yeah. And this isn't to say that if you're only just taking up art that you can't learn it and have a good time with it at any age. Of course you can. But I would recommend that if you've started drawing recently, or if you've just started painting, or you're interested in getting into art, a really important part of it is to learn about artists and art that's come before. And it helps you understand not only what has come before, but why certain art things have happened, why things have happened in the art world, if there is an art world. We'll get into that another day. And also just to sort of see what styles and things are out there. I mean, like, people always go, oh, is that art? But, you know, about certain areas of art and whatnot. But I think it's important to learn some of this. So if you are looking to learn about a few more artists, look at Paul Cézanne. I'm going to say, look at Michael English. We've talked about him quite a lot in the last few weeks. Escher, he's a good one. Liechtenstein and Gerald Murphy. There you go. Have a look at them for the next few weeks. They are all men. Unfortunately, women weren't really that prominent in the art world for quite a long time. But as soon as, but maybe that can be my homework. Next time I'll get, well, if you want some modern, more modern, I say modern, that's the wrong phrase to use because these are modern. In the art terms, they're modern or postmodern, I suppose. If you want some current artists to look at, I've looked at Cornelia Parker's work for a long time. I've used Cornelia Parker and Rachel Whiteread since my degree as a reference point. So look at Cornelia Parker and Rachel Whiteread as well if you're interested in looking at someone that's currently making art and isn't dead. So that's what I wanted to show you this week. It's wildly different. It's not at all what I expected to show you this week. But I thought it would be fun, and I thought we might learn something. And I'll find some time to redo this. I think this is acrylic paint. I can't think what else it would have been. I've got plenty of acrylic paint. If I do use paint, it's normally acrylic paint. But anyway, we'll redo that, and that'll be fun. And current artworks wise, Newcastle drawing is very much still underway. I'll show you that next week because we'll not get too hung up on it for now. Thank you massively to everyone that bought photograph prints in the last week. They're still on my Ko-fi page. They're still pay what you feel. And just thank you to everyone that's supported so far. That's been absolutely amazing. And I'm also going to pop, you might remember, Tiny Bee, Honeybee. I've done a few, there's quite a few in the Tiny Bee series. Now this is the latest one. It was in a show in a public gallery for a little while. It's back home now, and I'm going to pop this on my Ko-fi as well. And now I'm going to have to set a minimum price for it because otherwise I'll just be losing money, but I'm going to pop it on there as a pay what you feel. I listed this as £80 in the gallery, which is actually the lowest amount I've ever charged for one. And I think it was because it was quite a local show that I was just trying to be a bit more realistic with my pricing and that. So anyway, I'll pop it on. It'll come framed. I'll pop it on my Ko-fi as a pay what you feel, but with a minimum price yet to be confirmed. So if you're interested, have a look. And then yeah, what else? Other brief updates. I photographed netball yesterday, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet too much. Well, I am because no one else is going to do it for me. I took some great photographs at netball yesterday. I really did. It's not a place that I'm ever going to be able to film me photographing it. I settled on that yesterday. It's quite intense. I'm taking pictures non-stop for the full. Well, it's just over an hour in the end. It's 4 quarters with a couple of breaks in the middle, and I'm taking pictures that whole time. I'm never not holding the camera. So I can't pause to film, because if I pause to film something for 2 minutes, I've missed 2 minutes of the match. Whereas in rugby or football, they're sort of to and fro a bit more. It's not the same in netball. I'm never going to be able to film photographing a netball match, I don't think. I've popped a few of the pictures on my Instagram, my TikTok, if you want to go and have a look. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to ever talk through that. Maybe one day I'll go through the pictures and talk about how you get them, if that might be helpful. But anyway, right, I've talked a lot. I've shown you some things, but I've talked a lot. So I'm going to let you go. I'm going to leave you alone. Again, thank you for the support. If you can't help out with the prints or pay what you feel, if you could just like the video and subscribe if you've not subscribed, that would be a massive help. And yeah, and keep an eye out. I've started to try and post shorts more frequently, and I'll keep updating my Ko-fi as well, so you can see with little blog posts, so you can see what's going on in there too. But I need to tidy up all this for now and crack on with some drawing, and then the plan is that next week I will show you much more of the Newcastle drawing. We haven't seen it for a couple of weeks, have we, together? So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by how it's getting on. Okay, thank you for watching, and have a lovely week, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.